Yeah, so it was regarding the language issue. What role does language play in a multinational company's own local LLM result? So a German branch of the company may offer different services than our US colleagues. To what extent do these offerings overlap in the German LLM response?
Yeah, that can be an issue. We have some clients that actually have this exact problem, that they offer different products under the same name in different countries. And sometimes the LLMs pull information from the wrong country website. So very specifically, car companies are selling a different car in Spain versus South America. But the brand is the same, the model name is the same, and the language is more or less the same, right? If they do it in Spanish. So even if the LLMs look for information in Spanish, since they have no understanding of hreflang, they do not care about country targeting of their content that Google understands. And then they often cite from the wrong domain. And then the LLM answer might say, no, this car doesn't have a side airbag to a user in Spain, even though they have a side airbag. And I have not found anybody who has properly solve this. I believe it is a temporary issue, and LLMs will get better over time at understanding that brands might have content in English or Spanish that is only relevant for one country but not for another. Of course, what you can do is you can add some information in there like this is only for Spain or this is only for a country in South America, but there's no guarantee that the LLM would in that moment understand that and abide by it. I think we just need to pressure LLMs into understanding hreflang attributes and then no longer do these cross-language and cross-country mix-ups.
Okay, makes sense. Another question is, how can we tell whether AI-generated content is actually adding value versus just increasing volume?
How can we tell if AI-generated
we tell?
content? I mean, I guess you would be able to tell in your results. I mean, if we just think about what is the content that you're creating, is it adding value for the users or your customers? And if it's not, then, why have it? Regardless if it's AI-generated or not, it might be created by a human. But if it's not adding value, it's not adding value. But I think on scale, obviously, you need to just have a look at the results. Is that content performing? Is it actually helping, if you're thinking about the AEO context, is it actually helping LLMs understand your brand? And maybe, it's valuable in that sense. It's different ways of looking at value, I think, too.
Thanks. Another question is, we have an audience from around the world, and it would almost be impossible for us to optimize in all local languages on our website. So how can we optimize for LLM visibility still locally around the world?
I mean, I would focus on English content because that is likely to be used everywhere. And then you also need to think about, are you a product where people, no matter where they are, maybe just search for your product in English anyways? Or are people actually searching in their local language? You could look into translations with AI, but it's unlikely to perform super, super well if you just do very simple AI translation into all languages. And you should also think about, do you actually have local media coverage? Do you actually have backlinks from each country? If you are a very, I would say, culture-wise English-centric brand, you can also just have your website in English. If you're, for example, a B2B SaaS software, it's probably not the first step to translate your website into local languages. Or if your target audience is very young and is hearing also about your product in English-speaking media, then it would also be fine to potentially just do everything in English. And if you do mass translation, please think about some form of quality assurance, which could be as simple as paying a few native speakers to read it and tell you if it's acceptable or not.
Would you have any case studies you could share examples of implementing the strategies you talked about? Yes, I think we're going to link some in the email. What would you say moves the needle of showing up in LLMs the most fastest? So what's the hack, basically? Is there one?
Doing great SEO. That's the hack.
Is there a hack?
No, that's just what you need to do. Just do great SEO.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw there was this interesting research, I don't remember where it was, but that it showed that, obviously building your brand is still the thing that is, forming the most. So I guess, there might be some maybe tactical hacks, I don't know.
Well, I think the absolute first step is having a great product or service, because there's no hiding from LLMs. Your customers will be talking about you on Reddit. Your reviews will speak for themselves. If you have a crappy product or service, the sentiment's not going to look great, and LLMs might not recommend you or tell your potential customers that probably shouldn't pick this one. So I guess that's the best place to start, is to have a great product or service. And then obviously you can influence that as much as you possibly can. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how great the product is.
Since the question was for a hack, I will give a hacky answer. So this is maybe not sustainable, but actually just paying a few media websites to publish listicles where you rank yourself number one. I've even seen it work for a fake product. There's an agency in Germany. They invented a matcha powder that doesn't exist, and they published a couple of listicles, and that is the only content about this matcha powder. And now LLMs sometimes recommend it. And unfortunately, right now, that actually works, especially if it's a niche product. It will not work for, I don't know, what is the best CRM software, because there's a lot of real content. But if you pick a very specific niche, a couple of listicles are right now enough to fool LLMs in recommending a brand.
But this is a really interesting insight that we need to learn from, right? It's not a hack that we recommend people to use on scale, but it does give us an insight into how LLMs are working and how you can think about how the system works now and what tactics maybe you should implement that is a bit more sustainable, but along those lines.
I also saw, actually looking through Peec, that some of our competitors, what they do, they write on their own website, this is the list of the best 10 B2B SEO agencies. And then they rank, of course, they list themselves and they list the others. And we got some traffic from that. That's where, I think it could work as a hack. And maybe if you're in B2B SaaS, I think also could work, because it's very common to also have competitor comparisons. But that's where, as Precise, I would be like, okay, that I'm not sure from a brand perspective is something I would do. But maybe with a SaaS product where you can say, these are the best. And, we're also very open about what we do well and what others maybe don't do so well.
Yeah, we have actually done some research into that. In the space of agencies, 20% of all listicles are these what we call self-promotional listicles, where you publish it on your own website and then put your own brand on top. And B2B SaaS, there it's, I think, 10%, if I remember correctly. And in all other industries is significantly less used. Based on our research, this also seems to be enough to be included in the answers. So even if you're never in any external listicle, if you have a couple of your own listicles, that is enough. But if you want to be the number one answer given by LLMs, your own listicles are not enough. You need to also be in external listicles. And AI overviews are the most influenced by these self-promotional listicles. AI mode and Perplexity a little bit less, and ChatGPT the least. So ChatGPT seems to be quite good at not citing these listicles, but we also have a lot of competitors that are publishing them constantly, and they use AI to write it. And I know that because sometimes the AI hallucinates features about Peec AI that don't exist. And the problem is that then the next competitor that writes their listicle with AI uses the other listicles as a source. So there are now 5 listicles out there at least that say that Peec AI has the best PDF email alerts. But we do not have PDF email alerts. It is just an AI hallucination. And I do believe that this is not sustainable. And we have seen some domains in the B2B SaaS space that published a lot of these, like 100, and they actually lost a lot of their Google rankings in those directories. I don't know if it's really listicle related or more like scaled AI content abuse related, but there are some domains that really shot up in Google visibility and then also down again. So many of these hacky things you can do in AI right now, they are not sustainable. And I think this is also where you see when people come into the AI search space without an SEO background, they are like, oh yeah, let's just automatically create 15 listicles per day. And it works. Right now it works. It works really, really well. But everybody who has been around in SEO for a while remembers Panda, Penguin, helpful content update. And it's very obvious that there is already a product manager at Google, at OpenAI, talking to a data scientist, hey, can we do something about this? And since we at Peec AI could do it in our study, I know that OpenAI and Google can also do it. And I think a lot of brands are risking their domain reputation right now by abusing this too much.
Is there any statistics on how many people are searching in the local language?
Interesting.
I'm not aware of any statistic for that.
No, not aware.
That might be
But that would be very
difficult.
interesting to find out.
I write myself an email to find out, because we do have a
Okay,
data
so there's
set.
this is like
I think if that's something that people
Masterclass
are
second part, and there's Masterclass third part where Malte comes back with the answer.
But if that's something that people are interested in, obviously off the back of this research, that'd be really interesting to find out.
You spoke about documents. Can LLM read every kind of document, or are there things we have to keep in mind?
I think in general, LLMs are very good at reading almost anything, especially if you use a reasoning LLM or start a deep research. But of course, if I type a question into ChatGPT, it wants to give me an answer within a few seconds. So this web search process and grounding process that happens, it's not gonna parse a lot of documents. It's not gonna render complicated websites. It's gonna look for simple text-based answers that it can just cite. And then it needs to find these as a first step, right? So they need to rank into Google or Bing or Exa or Tavili or whatever system they use for grounding. And for that, of course, HTML is usually the best practice, because that usually ranks the best.
Would your recommendation be that our content on our Swiss website should have English content, even if the website has multiple languages based on your IP?
I would only add probably an about page in English and maybe one or two key content pages. I would not translate
Because this
everything.
goes into exactly what you said about the fact that, yes, some people in Switzerland might be searching in English, and then like the key information might be good to have in English then, but yeah.
But generally, as someone who's sometimes traveling for work, I hate IP-based language redirects. I want to be able to choose the language I'm consuming.
So this is the last one that we can answer now. We are heavy Semrush users. What would be the compelling reason to use Peec AI, as Semrush also gives AI prompts recommendation as a new service already?
I mean, Semrush is an SEO company that is building AI as a side project. Peec AI is built around that concept and 100% focused on it. And I would invite anybody to do a demo of Semrush and Peec AI and make their own choice. Otherwise, I don't want to publicly trash competitors too much.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think it was also interesting HubSpot released something similar, and HubSpot is a massive company. So I was really curious to look into it. And it's like has no way, the user friendliness that you guys have, but also the level of insights that you get with Peec. So it's just, HubSpot is great for, what it's doing. And I guess it's the same in this case. So
is HubSpot great though? I mean,
I love HubSpot.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we went through all the questions. I don't know if we are gonna share this as a recording, but if so, whoever was watching this and listened through the questions, I hope you found that valuable.